So today's video is all about how to fire an employee painlessly, or rather with as least friction and resentment as possible, because you don't want to leave on bad terms, because what's the point? Like, you're burning a bridge unnecessarily. And yeah, enough said there, I think. And I think the easiest way for this to start off is right at the very beginning before you actually hire someone. Now, in my last hiring round for our sales team, this was 8 weeks ago they started, give or take, um, we interviewed 1,200 candidates for what ended up being 13 offers, 10 people accept, and 7 people make it through their first week. So we went through a lot of people, and this time we were going with volume negates luck to make sure that we found the right people. So how do you first of all find out that you've got the right people? Now, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But we've definitely had the best hiring round we've ever done this time. And I think it comes down to a few things at the start, which obviously they have to be able to do the job. Past experiences, all of that. It's just like, that is a given, so I'm not even going to go into it. I'm going to skip you all the way through my interview process to the final bit, which is the final interview, where we have a scorecard as to, is this person actually the right fit for the company? And on that scorecard, we cover our 3 core values for our company. So for us, that's passion, efficiency, and positively hardworking. Again, a whole separate video for the reasoning behind those 3, and they're quite bundled terms as they are. But there's a score rating for each of those. There's a score rating for likability. That's a big one for us. Like, am I going to get along with this person? Will other people get along with this person? That's pivotal. What else do we have? Expectation versus job requirement. Sounds so crazily obvious. You'd be surprised the number of people that come in where they start and then the job isn't what they expected, even though it's what was agreed, talked about, and written down on paper. So always really important to check that. And a few other things like ability to build rapport and all this other stuff. Anyway, that's specifics about us. So starting off on the right foot, really important. And since we've been doing that, it's been much easier when letting people go, because it's never been, we haven't hired any people really anytime recently where letting them go has been a pain, because it's purely performance based, which makes life a lot easier. So if it's not about personality, then these conversations aren't personal. And as soon as something's not personal, it's a much easier conversation for everybody to have. So my trick around this is actually, I'll skip right to the end. Essentially, I get them to fire themselves. I actually had one guy ask me, like, am I firing myself? And I was like, no, if you have a solution to the problem we have at hand, I'm open to listening to that and to implementing it. I just don't have any solutions. So that's a conversation for us to have to build to get to this. And that was the answer. And he was like, yeah, I don't have any solutions either. So we parted ways. Unsurprisingly. So how do you go about it? Well, I think most jobs, especially for entrepreneurs and businesses of a smaller size, you know, like under 10 mil a year, you're probably having people, job roles are being made out of work that you can't do to start off with. You don't have enough time, or there's too much work to get done. And so you can literally quantify the value that this person has, and then you can figure out when you're figuring out their compensation and all that sort of stuff, you've literally calculated the value they have to bring for their job to exist. So you have SOPs, you have statistics that they need to be able to hit and track, and metrics for, you know, conversion rates, retention rates, churn, all this sort of stuff, that make it all really easy from that perspective of, these are the numbers for a salesperson especially, this is the value that you bring into the company. If they bring in less than their own wage, then they obviously can't stay. Right, there's nothing around, like, they have to pay for everyone else's jobs too. Like, they're the rainmakers at the end of the day. So that one's like the easiest example. Okay, so now that you know, like, you can literally quantify someone's value and are they meeting that? That's nice and simple, but it all starts off right at the very start in terms of the core values of the company. One thing that we really went heavy on this time around with our hiring process, we started off with 10 people, a cohort of 10 salespeople in our last hiring round. And the one thing we kept coming back to was it's okay to fail. 100% allowed. We learn from our mistakes, totally cool. The one thing that we can't have, and one thing that's never going to stop us, effort will not be the excuse for failure. So we had one guy who was really struggling, like expected 2.5 hours to do this bit of work every day, and he was genuinely spending 5 hours a day to do this. So we couldn't be mad. And that's what I said to him. I said, I thank you so much for the effort that you're putting in, and it means so much to me. And I went out of my way to help him get there, and just the skills weren't developing fast enough. So effort being not an acceptable excuse. A lack of effort is not an acceptable excuse. So having those core values is a really important thing to start off with, is super powerful. And then the next thing is treating everything as behaviors, right? Actions. So if the outcomes that haven't been achieved or have been achieved are due to the inputs done or the behaviors taken, what behaviors were taken and what need to be taken going forwards, because current behaviors reached not good enough outcome, so these behaviors should. So that's the thing that needs changing. There's no emotion behind that. And so Hormozy has a fantastic 5-star principle for this, of going through to figure out what the problem is. And it's essentially, do you know what needed to be done? So for the task, like, do you understand that there is a task that needs to be done? Right. And then you've got, did you know how to do it? Did you have the tools to physically do the job? Right? Can you follow the SOP? Does the SOP make sense? Do you know how to do your job? Great. Did you know when I wanted it done by? Okay, great. So you did know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Good. And then the last one is, did you actually want to do it? Now, this is the key one of like, why weren't you doing it? So if there was another priority or something like that, then you can then compare the two and go, okay, cool, completely understand that. In this next scenario, in this next situation, when you have something like this is more of a priority. Fine, going forwards, change the behavior, easy. But it's usually that last question that's the sticking point of, is this actually what you want to do? And even if we can fix the other ones, are you still going to want to do it? So having regular check-ins on people's performance that you track, clear plans of action of, okay, these are the targets we need to hit. To hit those targets, we've got to get this much minimum input, because this much input equates to that much output. That's just generally how business works. Like, you can break down most businesses to, they get 1,000 leads, and then there's steps along the way. So this many people submit a form, this many people get booked in, this many people show up, this many people close, or rather this many people have invoices sent, this many people close. So you've just got the top number and the bottom number and every number in between. But you'd know, well, for our company, for example, 11% of all leads that come in end up closing. Not ideal. When I'm closing, when I'm doing the task top to bottom, it's 25%, which is obviously much nicer. But we have those metrics, and you can just go, well, if I double my input, I will double my output pretty much every time. So just checking in with employees and being like, cool, did we know how much we needed to do? How can we go about doing that? Do you know how to do it? Do you know when to do it? And do you want to do it? And as long as you get all of those boxes ticked, you shouldn't have a problem. Then you have the issue of if performance keeps not happening, and then you end up with a financial justification of, you can turn up to a meeting with an employee because this won't be the first one. They know that they're not hitting their numbers, and you've set plans of action to hit them. And you've reviewed how they go about doing it. You solve any problems that they can do, that they have to be able to do it. And then you just come around with, great, so you know this was the problem. These were the minimum numbers hit. If you haven't hit it, why not? Okay, great. So that's what we need to fix. Fix that bottleneck. Then if it keeps going around of like they're not hitting their markers, then it's clearly a motivation issue. And then at that point, it's okay, this makes sense. Fine. I think now's probably the best time to part ways. Or if you go, right, these are the numbers, this is the best effort you can do, you've said it yourself, there's nothing more we can do, what would you do in my situation? Do you have any other suggestions as to how we could fix this? Um, yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. I know it's a whole range of waffle there. There's a lot to digest, and I think I could probably put this into a nicer framework, so I'll probably do that in a later video. But just spitballing how you can make that process far less emotional, and just generally make it a bit more of a pleasant experience. Hopefully that's helpful. I think at this point we've had around 200 employees and I've had to fire quite a few. My first one, very embarrassing. My last one, pretty nice. I'll tell you the embarrassing story another day. All right. Hope it helps. Later. Okay, so a little update for you. I know we already said goodbye. Obviously, the thought behind all of this was it was on my mind because I had a guy on the team going through this process right now. So I thought today might be the day I was having the conversation of, did you know what to do, when to do, how to do it, why to do it, and want to do it. Classic. And turned up and handed in his notice at the same point. And then we had a really good chat. Because it's not a logic, it's not like a pathological, it's not an emotional choice at this point. It was very much, it's obvious that this is the only next step of the work isn't necessarily being done. And they do know exactly what to do, when to do, and how to do it. And the last one is they just didn't want to. And at the point at which it became a problem, or a big enough problem that we noticed, and we tried to fix it, we put the steps in, and it's still not being done, is the point where they have actually analysed it as well and go, actually, yeah, maybe it's not the right fit. Funny timing. And so, very entertaining start of the call of, yeah, I actually think maybe this isn't the right time. And I was like, great, you've saved me a conversation. So parted ways on good terms, which is the way that you want to go with all parting ways in all of life, in my opinion. No sour tastes left in the mouth and brighter futures, I'm hoping. There you go. Thought it'd be a fun one to share. Obviously, the sun is set. So yeah, now I will catch you tomorrow. Peace.